Wow, wow, wow. I did a video recently about a Seattle Storm fan who decided to spit on a Indiana Fever fan who was celebrating the just concluded victory against the Seattle Storm in Seattle. And I guess being the WNBA, I should have ended the video, but wait, I'm sure there will be more because there is always more. Now we've got Sophie Cunningham fans allege Storm players exec, as in owner, heckled girls during game over support of women's sports. This is so insane. This is so bizarre. It has become terrifying how large a percentage of the population is absolutely unhinged. Open the asylums. We need to start putting people back in them. Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate y'all being here. Uh, Quick favor, like, comment, subscribe. I think y'all know the drill by now. Shout out to all of you being shouting out to the 19, of course. Yeah, man. So this is kind of wild. I haven't done a much of the Sophie Cunningham stuff with her comments about supporting women in women's sports. I've got a lot of different things collected, a lot of thoughts. I'm thinking eventually at some point because I knew it was going to get bigger and there's going to be more and more. And so eventually I probably will do a bit of a deep dive into it. But real quick, for those who don't know, of course, Sophie Cunningham made some comments about how she doesn't believe men should be allowed in women's sports. And being 2026, that got a lot of crazy, unhinged people to go absolutely batshit crazy and attack Sophie Cunningham and call her this and call her that. And, she's really one of the only big names in women's sports who's come out and defended little girls. Like everyone is terrified to talk about this issue. So, of course, this got a lot of girls to be very, very happy to understand that they're not alone, that there is someone involved in women's sports who is not pulling up the ladder behind them, like, say, Megan Rapinoe. And there were those at the game who were celebrating Sophie Cunningham and her support. But apparently that didn't go over so well in Seattle. A night of celebration devolved into a storm of chaos in Seattle. Women who were at the Indiana Fever game against the Seattle Storm told Fox News Digital that Storm players and even co-owner Celeste Keaton, I am shocked not at all, allegedly made mocking gestures and insults to girls who were there to celebrate Sophie Cunningham. The Storm actually provided a statement and apologized. We're aware one of our co-owners made comments to two fans in attendance at last night's game. We apologize that this happened. Everyone who attends a Storm game deserves to feel welcome. And if we remain committed to creating an inclusive environment where every fan is treated with respect. Yeah, here's the problem with that. It is not true. You don't want to be inclusive. You want to be very exclusive, i.e., the only people you include are those who agree with you on everything. And if they don't, you shun them and you shame them and you attack them mercilessly. I want you to think about this for a second. This is a co owner of a women's professional sports team harassing girls because they simply don't want to have to compete with boys in their sports. Let that sink in. If you think I'm the hateful one for saying that, I don't know how to help you other than to lock you up in an asylum because you can't function in a civilized society. I'm just saying. Absolutely insane that we have to have this conversation. So when Sophie Cunningham supporters went inside the arena, they allegedly faced shocking hostility while fans in attendance relentlessly booed Cunningham from the moment she touched the ball, which I guess makes the 3 for 3 from three and 11 points in the first quarter that much more exciting for Sophie Cunningham. I'm sure she was enjoying that. The group included several teenage girls wearing XXXY athletics shirts and carrying handmade signs thanking Cunningham. Independent journalist Brandy Cruz, who helped organize the gathering, sat near the girls in courtside seats on the Storm's end of the floor. She said fans began booing the girls when they stood up for photographs before the game and between quarters. Quote, some of the fans were relentlessly booing at them, Cruz told Fox News Digital. And I kind of turned around and said, look, they're just teenage girls. This is insane to me. Uh, truly. And I guess I'm glad I wasn't there. I'm at that point, in my life and this nonsense that I see, and it's kind of like what's that saying? I don't condone violence, but it goes back to and to the Mike Tyson quote about how the problem with people on social media is that they haven't been punched in the mouth and so on and so forth. And I'm not saying anyone should do that, but when there are no consequences for stuff like this, you get more of it and it becomes more and more unhinged. And I'm sorry, but if I were there and you were doing this to little girls, you and I would have a problem. I coached girls from age 6 to 19. I coached like 12, 13, 14 years, multiple teams, trained players, trained college athletes as well. So a little older, but in terms of teams, basically age 6 to 18, I guess, going off to college, somewhere almost 19. And so this is near and dear to my heart, man. Like, I have no sympathy, no tolerance for these unhinged lunatics who lose their minds because girls simply don't want to compete with boys in their sport. I'm not getting into all the other stuff. I don't care. You are a boy, you don't compete in girls' sports. Period. End of discussion. That's it. I mean, it's so wild to me that so many of the same people who scream constantly about the patriarchy and oppression and, the women's national team needs to get the same money as the men's national team and all this other stuff also happily support boys and girls sports. It's absolutely wild. Um, Bruce said she also personally witnessed a couple of Storm players direct thumbs down gestures toward the girls. She said one of the gestures came when a girl wearing an XXXY athletics shirt danced during a break in the game. They were giving them thumbs down, like to their faces. That's like, what is wrong with you? I mean, I guess shouldn't surprise me from the players in the WNBA. They've never actually grown into adulthood. Most of them are a bunch of scumbags, but not all. Not all. It's crazy. It says the night took a more emotional turn at halftime. One of the 16-year-old girls had already texted Cruz that nearby fans were making comments about her shirt and Cunningham. Cruz later looked across the court and saw the girl sobbing in her front row seat. Let that sink in. Cruz said, quote, I look over at halftime and she's sobbing. They were so excited for those seats, like a once in a lifetime opportunity to see some of their favorite players. They stayed up the night before making signs. Cruz said the girls then told her that an older woman associated with the storm had approached them, yelled at them, and called them effing insane. So the girls who don't want boys in boys' sports are effing insane, but the lady who thinks I can be a woman if I say I am is the sane one. That's where we've gotten to, by the way. The girls later pointed out the woman sitting across from them beside Storm legend and team co-owner Sue Bird. Sue, why didn't you speak out? I'm sure you will speak out at some point, the way people like Elle Duncan and Monica McNutjob all want Caitlin Clark to speak out on every little troll who says something they don't like. I assume Sue Bird is going to speak out against a co-owner of the Seattle Storm for this aberrant behavior directed toward girls. Wow. When Cruz alerted an arena security guard, she said the guard identified the woman as one of the owners of the team. Cruz later identified the woman as Keaton, who had previously been publicly identified as a member of the Storm's ownership group. She pressed security to confront the woman, arguing that the alleged conduct violated that arena's code of conduct. The arena prohibits abusive or obscene language and says violators may be ejected. Quote, had this been any other fan under any other circumstances who swore at and called some teenage girls effing insane until they cried, they would have been ejected. That is 100% true. I think we all know that. I think we know if the tables were reversed, if this was a Caitlin Clark fan saying something to teenage girls who were rooting for the other team in a way like this, they absolutely would have been thrown out. Indiana Fever probably would have been punished. Caitlin Clark would have been suspended, and so forth. Uh, the report now, and here she also was honest about this. The report that they told the girls to put those signs away is not true. The girls put their signs away because of what happened with Celeste, and they just felt so scared and uncomfortable, they decided not to hold them anymore. This is insane, man. Like, where are we going as a society that girls supporting a player who thinks women should have their own separate sports from men and that men should not be allowed to compete in women's sports brings this kind of insane, irrational hatred from adults to girls. Wow. Yeah, we need we need some serious changes, man. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Truly appreciate it. I will talk to you later.